Okay, let me just put some light on. There we go. That's much better. I'm going to be reading from the Proclamation of the Grand Mufti to the Islamic world in 1937. Okay, show you how old this is. That's what I'll be reading today. Hey, what's up, Dead? What's your name? Dead Devil? And this is translated from the German, just in case you didn't know. Let me adjust this a little bit more. That's a little better. Okay. Since the earliest days of their history, the Jews have been an oppressed people. And there must be good reason for that. Also, let's see how far I get before YouTube cancels me, censors this video, gives me a fucking a strike. Let me start again. Since the earliest days of their history, the Jews have been an oppressed people, and there must be good reason for that. As far back as the Egyptian pharaohs, energetic oppressive measures had to be taken against the Jews because they were exploiting the Egyptian people and destroying general morale through usury and other crimes. Finally, there was nothing left to do but banish the Jews from the land, and under the leadership of Moses, the Jews traveled through the Red Sea. As the recognized Arabic theologian Tabari relates, the Jews wanted to kill Moses when he returned from Mount Sinai. As punishment for this crime and for their apostasy, Allah, and I love saying it because so many of you hate it without even understanding what it means. But I'm gonna let you find out what it means. I love annoying you so-called phony Christians and Jews out there. Allah caused them to wander in the desert for 40 years. By means of this catharsis, the new generation which arose during this time would have had the possibility of stripping away the sins of their fathers and returning to the way of Allah. This new generation spread out across Mecca, Medina, Syria, and Iraq, the lands where milk and honey flowed. But this generation was still worse than the previous one. As says the Arabic proverb, a dog had a young one, but the young one was more like a dog than the one that created it. That portion of the Jews which had come to Syria and Palestine were now under Roman rule. The Romans very quickly recognized the danger posed to the land by Jewry and therefore decreed sharp measures against the Jews. Added to this was the fact that a serious epidemic, the plague, broke out, which, in general opinion, had been brought in by the Jews. When the doctors too declared that the Jews were the epicenter of the disease, in which they were no doubt correct, such outrage arose among the people that many Jews were killed. This event is the reason that the Jews to this day are called microbes. And if you don't know what a microbe is, Google it. For that reason, the Arabs understand especially well when likewise energetic measures are undertaken in Germany against the Jews, and they are driven off like mangy dogs. In any case, the Arabs are the injured party by that, since the Jews, for the most part, made their way from Germany to Palestine. Remember, this proclamation is from 1937, before the state of Israel even existed. Burn your history books that you are taught from in your schools. Do not listen to the so-called documentaries that you're shown on TV. They're all lies. The Jewish scum from all lands came together there to take the Arabs' land away. They have bought up land from the poorest of the poor and from the conscienceless landowners. They have stolen bread from the mouths of poor widows, taken milk from children to gorge themselves. They have not shied away from committing bloody murders. When Arabs resisted the Jewish immigration, and they deprived families of their providers and brought them to misery, Allah will punish them for these shameful deeds. This battle of Jews against Arabs is nothing new. The venue has just changed over time. The Jews hate Muhammad and Islam and every person who wishes to improve his people and fights against Jewish greed and corruption. The battle between the Jews and Islam began when Muhammad fled from Mecca to Medina, where he created the foundation for the development of Islam. At that time, the Jews were great business people and noticed immediately that Muhammad's influence in spiritual as well as in business matters could become dangerous to them. So they developed an even greater hatred for Islam, and this hatred increased more and more. The stronger and more powerful Islam became. They broke the treaty of Kayabar, or Kahabar. I don't know how to say this, so I'm going to just say it this way, Kabar, that had been agreed upon with Muhammad, and their rage reached its height when the Quran showed their deepest spiritual feelings and revealed their unscrupulousness and lack of conscience, and made them generally known. And at that time, the Jewish methods were already the same as today. Their weapon, as ever, was defamation. And so they tried to lower Muhammad in the eyes of his followers. They said he was a swindler, a magician, a liar. And when they did not achieve their ends that way, they tried to undermine Muhammad's honor by spreading the rumor that his wife, Aisha, had committed adultery. By spreading these rumors and reports, they wanted to sow doubt in the hearts of Muhammad's followers. And when none of this worked, they tried to discredit Muhammad's teaching. To this purpose, several Jews converted to Islam, only to take up Judaism again the next day. When they were asked about this sudden change of feeling, they explained slyly that they had tried Islam with good intentions, but were forced to conclude that everything was a lie. The following words about this are in the Quran. Many of the people of the book wish they could make you unbelievers again after you had become believers. The envy in their souls after the truth had become clear to them. Quran 2, 109. When the Jews recognized the impossibility of achieving their ends by the means they already attempted, they sought a new way and began to ask Muhammad senseless and unsolvable questions. Unsolvable questions. By doing this, they wanted to show others that Muhammad was lacking in knowledge and wisdom. But with this method too, as before, they had no success. So they became convinced that Islam is firmly rooted in the hearts of Muslims and therefore, or rather, and thereafter, tried to eradicate the Muslims. They committed the cowardly crime of giving money to several non-Muslim Arabic tribes to fight against Muhammad. But Almighty Allah wished it otherwise, and with an iron fist struck down the rebellious tribes for Muhammad and conquered their city. The Jews could not bear this defeat and decided to destroy Muhammad and hired murderers for this purpose. The Jews in Medina lived in the city district Banu Nadir, and Muhammad and and Muhammad had concluded a treaty with them after he had come to Medina. One day, he went to this district with 10 companions in order to speak with the Jews and convert them to Islam. Muhammad showed the Jews the foundations of Islam, and the Jews appeared interested and approachable. While Muhammad was in friendly conversation with some of the Jews, other Jews were preparing an attempt on his life. They convinced the man to throw a heavy stone at Muhammad's head. Muhammad would have been lost if a warning had not come from Allah. An inner voice warned him to leave the place, so the traitorous Jews could not carry out their plan. Muhammad sent one of his followers to the Jews to tell them that they were to leave the city within 10 days. They had broken the treaty. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Wake the fuck up, cattle! They had broken the treaty they had made with him by plotting to take his life. Every Jew still found in the city after 10 days would be punished by death. Now, some of the Jews who had outwardly adopted Islam but were inwardly still Jews, crypto Jews, convinced the other Jews not to leave the city. Therefore, when the 10 days had elapsed, Muhammad saw himself constrained to drive the Jews out by force. Some of the Jews fled to Kabar, others to Syria, and in the Quran is the following: it is he who has driven those people of the book who were unbelieving from their dwellings in the first banishment. You did not think that they would leave, and they themselves thought their castles would protect them from Allah. But Allah came to them from where they did not imagine and cast fright into their hearts, so that they destroyed their houses with their hands and with the hands of the believers. So heed the example, O you who have eyes. Quran 59:2. The Jews who had fled to Kabar did not admit defeat and resolved to avenge themselves on Muhammad. They turned to other Jews in Kabar as well as the Jews of Tima and Wadil al-Qura, with whom they fashioned a plot. With the help of much money, they incited the non-Muslim Arab tribes to attack Medina. When Muhammad learned of these plans, he quickly armed his people and marched against Kabar, the center of the revolutionary plans. The Muslims conquered Kabar, drove out most of the Jews, while Muhammad concluded a treaty with the remaining Jews and assured the peace. Only after this devastating blow could the Islamic realm develop peacefully. It is, however, no wonder, considering Jewish character, that the Jews did not give up their dark plans in spite of the agreed treaty, and tried by all means to destroy Muhammad. Again, this is reading, this was given in 1937, and the events it's talking about happened during the lifetime of Muhammad. For those of you out there who think that this is new, they were doing back then what they do today. This is what they do. It is, however, no wonder, considering Jewish character, that the Jews did not give up their dark plans in spite of the agreed treaty and tried by all means to destroy Muhammad. They invited Muhammad to a banquet, and he accepted the invitation without suspicion. Splendidly roasted lamb was set before him, which was served him by Zainab, the Jewess of the wife of Salam bi Mishkam. There was talk about the treaty and the good understanding which now prevailed, and nothing was further from Muhammad's mind than to suspect treachery. Muhammad and his faithful follower, Bisha bi al-Bara, each took a piece of the lamb, but Muhammad did not swallow his, because he noticed an odd flavor and said, "The bone tells me that the lamb is poisoned." Muhammad had Zainab, the Jewess, summoned and asked whether this meat was in fact poisoned. She answered, "You know that I have a good reputation among the Jews, and I admit that I poisoned the lamb." I thought that if you are only a king, I would be killing a king. But if you are a true prophet, you would know that the meat was poisoned. Talk about covering your ass. Muhammad's companion died as a result of the poison. The little bit of poison that Muhammad had on his tongue became more and more noticeable, and there are historians who attribute his death to the effects of this poison. They refer to a hadith passed on by Abu Hurairah, in which Muhammad, shortly before his death, said, I got tongue-tied there for a second, "The meal of Kabar makes itself noticed repeatedly until I die." The Muslims must think again and again of the meal of Kabar. If the Jews could be so treacherous to Muhammad, how treacherous will they be to them? The Jews now were convinced that Muhammad's person was protected against any attack. So they decided to sow dissension among the tribes to break the power of Islam. Sound familiar? What are they doing now, today, here in the United Snakes? sowing dissension among the people. This is what they do. Wake the fuck up. The Jews now were convinced that Muhammad's person was protected against any attack, so they decided to sow dissension among the tribes to break the power of Islam. When Muhammad had returned to Medina, he had succeeded in reconciling the tribes of the Aus and of the Khazra, who had been at war for 120 years, and by doing that had strengthened the position of Islam enormously. These two hostile tribes had become true brothers under the sign of Islam, and peace had entered the city. This was also the point when the Jews attempted to undermine the Islamic realm. A vengeful old Jew, Shas B. Qais, was one day with his friends passing through a square where there was a gathering of the reconciled tribes. He could not bear to see the two tribes which had so many wars with each other so peacefully united. And he devised a devilish plan. He sent his friend, who was a connoisseur of the war literature of the earlier time, and charged him to perform some of the old songs of hatred in their gathering. The Jew, an accomplished orator, went to the gathering and began to recite the battle songs of both tribes. He succeeded in finding one man in each tribe in whom the old hatred flared up. These two began fighting with each other and called their tribesmen to their weapons. An incalculable disaster would have occurred if Muhammad, as soon as he had report of the civil war, had not hurried to the place of battle. He shouted, "Oh, my Allah, are the old times to return while I am still among you? After you received Islam as a religion, the old tribal feuds were buried, and you became brothers in your hearts. Do you want to fall back into unbelief?" Now the two tribes became aware that it was only through the Jews that strife had been sowed between them. They threw down their weapons, asked Allah for forgiveness, embraced one another, and formed a new bond of brotherhood. The Quran has this to say about the Jew, Shaz B. Quais, I guess it's called. In this connection, O people of the book, why do you hold back the one who believes from the path of Allah when you yourselves are witnesses? But he will not overlook what you are doing. Quran 3:99. And on the two tribes, Oth and Khazra, it is said, O you who believe, you are complying with those who receive the scripture. They are making you into infidels again after you became believers. How can you be unbelieving when Allah's verses have been read to you and his messenger is among you? He who holds fast to Allah is already on the right path. Quran 3:100, 3:101. In spite of all their efforts, the Jews never succeeded in sowing dissension among Muhammad's followers and leading them back to unbelief. Although the Jews must have realized the futility of their efforts, they tried repeatedly to carry out their devilish plans. Let me repeat that word. Although the Jews must have realized the futility of their efforts, they tried repeatedly to carry out their devilish plans. And indeed, this time they attempted by deception to bring Muhammad himself to apostasy. There was conflict between two Jewish tribes, and the one that was in the wrong had a meeting and sent their leaders to Muhammad. The Jewish leaders said to Muhammad, "You know that we are very influential men. If you judge in our favor, in our quarrel with the other party, we will use our influence to assure that all Jews convert to Islam." Naturally, Muhammad rejected this request. In the Quran, this is said about it, that you make your decisions according to that which Allah reveals to do, not follow your own desires. Let me repeat that one. That you make your decisions according to that which Allah reveals and do not follow your own desires. Be cautious in their presence so that they do not divert you from a part of what Allah reveals to you. If they turn away, know that Allah will surely strike them for some of their sins. Truly, many people are transgressors. Quran 5:49. Another example of the subversive activity of the Jews is passed on by Ibn Abbas. At the time when Muhammad went from Mecca to Medina, prayer was said in the direction of Jerusalem. This situation lasted only 17 months, and then Muhammad received the divine revelation to change the direction of prayer for the future to Mecca. And since this time, prayer is always said with the face turned towards Mecca. The Quran says about this, "We saw you turn your face to heaven. Now we want to turn it in a direction agreeable to you. Turn your face in the direction of the holy place of prayer. And wherever you are, turn your face in this direction. Behold, those who receive the scripture know that this is the truth from their Lord. And Allah does not overlook what they do." Quran 2:144. When the Jews heard these verses, they became very angry and raised the idea with Muhammad of turning the direction of prayer back to Jerusalem. In this case, they promised that all Jews would accept Islam. Muhammad, however, did not allow himself to be diverted by this offer into offending against the divine command. There is this on the subject in the Quran. We are changing the direction you turn for prayer so that we may distinguish him who follows the messenger from him who turns on his heel. This was surely difficult, but not for those whom Allah guides. And Allah will not destroy your faith, for behold, Allah is all gracious and all merciful to people. Quran 2:143. And yet, another example of how the Jews did not shy away from stabbing Muhammad in the back at times of greatest danger. When Muhammad had won the battle of Badr, he sent a messenger to Medina on his own camel because it was the fastest in order to bring the news of victory. The Jews attempted to cause confusion in the Muslim ranks and to dishearten Muhammad's comrades in arms by spreading the false report that Muhammad had fallen in the battle. As proof of that, they offered the fact that Muhammad's camel had returned with a strange rider. When this plan too was unsuccessful, some of the Jews turned to Mecca and tried to incite Muhammad's enemies against him. They declared that they were prepared to support the Meccans against Muhammad with an army. When the heathen Meccans asked the Jews whether Muhammad's religion was good, since the Jews indeed had received a holy scripture before Muhammad, the Jews said, "You know that we are men of science, so believe us when we tell you that your religion is better." In the Quran, the following is said about this: "Do you not see those who received a portion of the scripture? They believe in Jebt and Tugut, but they say of those who do not believe that they are better guided on the path than those who believe. They are the ones whom Allah has cursed, and whomever Allah curses, you will find no helper for him." Quran 4:51 through 52. And it can be seen how this curse has come true. The Jews are scattered homeless across the entire world, and nowhere do they find true help and support. Further, there is a verse in the Quran which quite unmistakably characterizes the position of Islam and Judaism. It says, "You will certainly find that the Jews and the idolaters harbor the strongest hostility towards those who believe." Quran 5:82. And this thought is even more strongly expressed in a statement of Muhammad: "It will never be possible to see a Jew and a Muslim together without the Jew having a secret intent to destroy the Muslim." Muslim brothers out there, listen to this again. This is Muhammad speaking. It will never be possible to see a Jew and a Muslim together without the Jew having a secret intent to destroy the Muslim. Abu Hurairah passes on the following hadith: "The day of judgment will only come when the Muslims have dealt the Jews a crushing blow, when every stone and every tree behind which a Jew has hidden speaks to the Muslim, 'Behind me is a Jew. Strike him dead. Only the tree, Garkad, a small shrub with sharp thorns, will not take part, for it is a Jewish tree.'" And you figure out the symbolism to that. The reason for the arguments made above is that the Jews are on the point of reaching out their hands towards the holy places which are sacred for each Muslim and each Christian. Listen up. I don't care what you think about Maduro and his politics, but what Maduro said was absolutely true. The reason for the arguments made above is that the Jews are on the point of reaching out their hands towards the holy places which are sacred for each Muslim and each Christian. The Islamic world and the friends of Islam shall be shown how the Jews truly are in their innermost being. Usually, one only sees the Jews with their veneer of civilization, but the Arabs have learned best how they really are. That is, as they are described in the Quran and in the sacred scriptures, the Bible. Then the agonies to which the Arabs in Palestine have been subjected can be understood. And one can imagine how these agonies will increase to the monstrous when the Jews have fully and completely laid their hands on Palestine. This was written in 1937, before the state of Israel existed. I present to my Muslim brothers in the entire world the history and the true experience which the Jews cannot deny. The verses from the Quran and Hadith prove to you that the Jews have been the bitterest enemies of Islam and continue to try to destroy it. Do not believe them. They know only hypocrisy and guile. Hold together, fight for Islamic thought, fight for your religion and your existence. Do not rest until your land is free of the Jews. Do not tolerate the plan of division, for Palestine has been an Arabic land for centuries and shall remain Arabic. And that, once again, is the proclamation of the Grand Mufti, the Muslim Pope, Haji Amin El Husseini. You can buy the book on Amazon, eBay, wherever books are sold. $1937. How quickly y'all forget. Peace.